Georgia lawyers Bob and Irreverent D talk law. Listen up for stories about how things really happen in our legal system. Who are these guys? Dwayne Singleton, Irreverent D, is a criminal. Turn page. Defense attorney. Benjamin O Bengtson will personally injure. What? Oh, wait. Is a personal injury attorney in Atlanta. Now, sit back and take a listen as Bob and Irreverent D talk law.
Thanks for having me back, Bob.
I'm so glad to be back.
Man, this is so much fun.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a different day.
Day drinking, talking about the law.
Talking about the law.
It's not a bad way to
what
live.
could be better?
Yeah.
I think next time, aren't we going to do episodes like at down at the beach with cigars
all over? We're gonna
and whiskey.
We are up for suggestions on locations. If you want to have us out to talk about random facts about the law,
Could be out on a boat, on the back of a boat.
Yacht would be nice if somebody's got a yacht.
We
Sailboat.
We need to find
a beach
somebody.
house would be nice.
Beach house. Well, we have to find that out.
Yeah, we can definitely do some remote locations.
But it's about time to talk about
Let's
the news.
talk about it. What do we
Can
got?
we talk about the news?
And now, the news.
So, one, I have this case about intentional infliction of emotional distress.
We keep saying we're going to talk about that.
We keep saying we're going to talk about that. We're going to get to the end at the end of our episode.
Eventually.
I think let's get to at the end of today.
We're going to do it today.
We're going to do it. I promise we're going to do it today. We've been punting on that one for a while.
As a lot of attorneys do with that issue.
Right? Like what they teach us to say in law school is it depends.
It depends. I may not be the lawyer for that. Somebody might want to sue, but not necessarily me.
Exactly. All right. I said this one is interesting. The headline is Abortion Ruling Sparks Phone Data Debate. So, this is a huge topic.
It's interesting.
We're going to narrow it down.
And terrifying
at
the same time.
Are you planning to have an abortion?
I'm not planning on having an abortion.
Okay.
But the big brother aspect of that particular case...
It is kind of disturbing, isn't it?
...is terrifying.
Because, all right, so taken to its complete logical extent.
Right.
If it's now, sure enough...
Well, first tell them what the case is about.
Okay, so what is happening now is now that abortion is apparently legal to be illegal in Georgia.
Right.
Meaning Georgia has a law that says you can't have an abortion after the heartbeat starts, 6 weeks or whatever it is. So now the question is, well, what are district attorneys, what are prosecutors what lengths are they going to go to actually prosecute women for having abortions?
So my wife gets pregnant. I want the baby. She doesn't. She goes to another state where it's legal to have an abortion.
Nothing wrong with that so far?
I go pitch a fit to my district attorney and the local police officers. I say, I want her prosecuted for murder.
So, taken to its logical extent.
Right.
Let's think about this for a second. What's happening if I'm the prosecutor and I'm like, terrible person. I'm here to make sure that the law of the land is followed. That means that somebody has aided and abetted and participated in a crime by transporting or encouraging your wife to be transported across state lines to do a criminal act, which means there's a conspiracy to commit a crime and there's a crime.
In our state, where it's illegal.
In our state where it's illegal.
So now we can investigate that.
So
what links can we go to investigate said crime?
This is where it gets super fascinating for us kind of tech nerds, is if I'm the
criminal defense attorneys, it gets terrifying.
It does get terrifying, right? If I'm the prosecutor, I'm thinking, well, I wonder where it is that I could look for data, for information.
I have an idea.
Oh.
Maybe they have a cell phone.
That's right. So I could send a subpoena. I could send some request for information to T-Mobile or to whoever to say, I want all of your tracking data, her GPS information from her phone to show where she went to commit this crime. And the answer is, well, that data actually is there.
And prosecutors use it all the time.
Do they really?
In big cases, yes.
Like what?
Like murder cases where we're trying to figure out where the husband was when when his wife disappeared, and we don't have a body yet. And
in their mind, and apparently according to Georgia law, this is a murder.
Right.
So
now they're asking though for these companies to affirmatively keep track of this information, so if they need it, they can get it.
This is what's fascinating about this article. This is from the Wall Street Journal from August 8th. And it turns out my sister Bethany had like some background in this because she's in data privacy
right
in this industry. And what we're learning is that these companies are saying, sorry, we're just not keeping that data.
Don't have it. Even though they probably do.
Yeah, I mean, really? Like they're just basically saying, sorry, we don't keep that data. Of course, we track that data, but we don't keep it. So if a prosecutor is asking for it, essentially what these companies are saying is, according to our policy, we don't keep that data.
But see, there's other laws in place where we require certain data collection companies to hand over information to law enforcement. So if you upload child pornography to a cloud site, it will automatically
track your ISP or whatever
and send it out without a warrant, without the right to search, even though somebody might feel like it's private or they've paid for special privacy or they,
I know, but really, Dwayne, if it's child pornography.
I understand that's probably not the people, but when we're talking about privacy issues, what if we start talking about your religious rights and whether or not we want them to provide all religious text and stuff that you've
leave it to the
said.
criminal defense attorney to be like, talking about the slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope.
Pretty soon, everything in the world that I go to.
Well, it's simple. Just track everybody where everybody's at. Then we know who commits all the crimes, right? Just keep your cell phone camera on and we know what you're doing.
Can't everything be a crime?
Sure.
Seriously.
There's thousands and thousands of laws that we don't enforce, but just let AI figure it out and we'll enforce all of them.
Yeah, that's true. If you think about, I hadn't even thought about this. It just occurred to me. Your phone is tracking your GPS miles per hour.
Yeah.
Right? It's tracking how fast you're going.
Send you a ticket in the mail.
You send you a ticket in the mail for driving over the speed limit because your tracking just showed that you're going 100 miles an hour.
Right. We weren't even talking to the phone a second ago, and Siri started talking back to us, just randomly listening in.
In our house, we have a thing we have to say. Well, have you told she who shall not be named about this? Because as soon as you say their name, all of a sudden
they're like, "Hello."
Of course, obviously they're listening the whole time.
Right.
The only way to know that is
and so they want the information on whether we're going to track people. So I mean, that's very interesting stuff.
It is a slippery slope. So
I'd like to know how people feel about it. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I mean, comment down below and let us know.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at it from the democracy side of things, right, the majority of, depending on what side of the gubernatorial.
Well, like the child porn thing, everybody agrees it's bad, right? We don't want to protect it, but it's,
but what?
But what? Do we allow people to look inside our private computers at home?
Just start nosing around,
just because we're plugged into the internet.
Right, what happens if you have a picture of your kid in the bathtub?
You could have the GBI come kick your door in and come
right
look
down
and see,
especially if they don't like you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to the democracy thing, I like to say democracy, I might have taken this from somebody else. Democracy is two wolves and a hen deciding what's for dinner.
Can be tough.
Can be.
You probably don't want to be the hen.
In a true democracy, you definitely don't want to be the hen. And that's kind of the dirty, secret underbelly of what our constitutional law is about. As much as I complain about constitutional law as being like made up,
right?
And I hated constitutional law class when I was in law school.
Well, because it can go either way,
depending
on how you look at it, right?
It could go anywhere. We have this multi-factor balancing test. Like the government has to have a compelling interest.
Strict scrutiny.
Strict scrutiny. Yeah. Right? You can't say that we can't put a billboard on the side of the road that says "We Bear All," which actually it happens in your neck of the woods near to Emville, right? The point is that some institution in our government has to look out for the minority interest, for that hen who's being like in a pure democracy where everybody says
you need your wolves to be woke.
You need your wolves to be woke. I love that. Can I patent that?
Sure.
All
Put it
right,
on a
so
T-shirt.
We're going to do that. So, at any rate, so to go full circle on this article, what the data people are saying is, sorry, we're just not going to keep that information.
Probably their best bet.
I mean, to stay safe, especially if you're dealing with multiple different jurisdictions, because I don't know what you've said, but I have always thought, first of all, constitutional law is bullshit anyways, because it's just made up. But second of all, that that the Roe v. Wade was so terribly written that it really, if they're really going to stand up for the silent minority of in that right, it really ought to have been written better, right, or have some kind of
from a constitutional standpoint.
Yeah. So
it left holes in it to get to where we are today.
Exactly. Like it was a terrible. Well, not that I'm a constitutional scholar, right? But at the same time, you have to look at from this perspective that the majority of Georgians have elected these people into office that have made this the law. This is the law of your land, and it's always the right of a people to decide what's morally right and what's morally wrong. And so, if you've got an issue about it, vote the individuals out and vote some other individuals in to make sure that it gets fixed that way. And I think in that sense, maybe the Supreme Court got it right. If it's an issue about what's criminal and what's not criminal, let the states decide, because that's what's right.
And if you don't like what people around you are doing, then move somewhere where you like the people around you. I mean, I hate to be that way, but that's kind of
just don't bring your politics with you. Right.
I mean, but what scares me about this data collection thing is we've already moved into this predictive policing stuff, which we need to talk about that some, where we're using AI to determine where crimes are going to be committed. We throw this in there,
like
Big Brother.
Big Brother is tracking you all the time.
Done.
That's right.
Yeah.
In that sense, I'm a pretty conservative guy, but in that sense, it's super scary. It's super scary because you think, well, as soon as you're a target, they just find something.
Right.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, well, the answer is just don't do anything wrong. I promise you, if you read through all the legal books,
that's right,
you're doing something wrong.
That's right. You find me a person, I'll find a crime.
You don't realize it.
That's right. Yeah. So, do we have a sponsor for this week's episode?
Yes, we do. So, when you can't get to work by 9.
Yes.
Or if you're going on a date with somebody that you have absolutely no future with and you just want to end it. You don't want to do it, but you want to let them down easily.
Right.
Or you have brunch
or you just don't want to go.
Brunch with your in-laws, and it's not really, you're not feeling it.
I mean, obviously, my in-laws are great, but I can see that.
You got somewhere that you need to be that you don't want to be, like a parent-teacher conference.
Right. Or cheerleading practice. Not that I'm...
Church meeting you don't want to attend because you're going to talk about how to cut the watermelons for the social.
Is there some way to get out of those?
Yes, there is.
Tell me.
That is justanexcuse.net.
I love it. What do
this
they do?
This is a website that you can go to, and for all those annoying things that you just don't want to attend, they can come up with a custom-made excuse for you.
A bona fide excuse that will get me out of it?
With witnesses and everything.
No kidding.
Yes, that they're going to be there for you. They will make the phone call, set up the business meeting, make the arrangements, provide the evidence that you were there.
Oh my gosh.
So that you have justanexcuse.net.
Dwayne, we need to talk to these people. How many times have you been called for a trial that you're like, man, I really don't want to try this case?
I've got to have my appendix taken out.
My appendix taken out, or
whatever. Justanexcuse.net comes up.
I wonder if they'll come up with a conflict for us.
I've been
another case that we have to show for.
I've been subpoenaed to a deposition and I can't get out of it.
They'll do this?
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
they cover
that's insane.
This with legit reasons so that you don't have to show it.
How is that even possibly legal?
I have no idea, but they do it. That's their business. They can worry about that.
Good Lord.
They need to talk to their lawyers. But we appreciate y'all sponsoring us.
I'm sure they have some kind of like
super genius lawyer that handles all that.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Maybe it's out of the country. Who knows?
JustAnExcuse.net.
All right, let's get back to the news. I've got wrongful discharge lawsuit. You want to talk about that? Nah, not really.
What were they discharged for?
Well, this guy says that he was discharged because, this is kind of interesting. He says that he is hard of hearing, and so he has the hearing aids in.
Okay.
And the people around him were making fun of him, and so he wanted to change to a different office. And they were like, no, we're not going to change you to a different office.
A-holes are making fun of the guy because he can't hear.
I mean, seriously. I don't understand that. That's a legitimate disability.
And he got fired over it.
No, not exactly.
So he didn't get fired for the disability.
He didn't get moved from his original office to a different office.
Okay.
And so feeling like he was being punished for this, he resigned. And
so people were bullying him. They
That's right.
moved him to a different location to try to accommodate him.
Sort of. Right.
And he felt like he was being punished.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so he filed a lawsuit for discrimination.
Because we've talked about you can file a lawsuit for anything.
Because he had, I mean, I don't know how much money he had,
right.
But he had at the very least, he had a piece of paper and a crayon and $300.
Yeah.
That's right. And so he filed this case for wrongful discharge. And, you can file a case for, being wrongfully discharged if you actually quit, if you were essentially forced to quit. Right. But in Georgia, there really isn't like a case for wrongful discharge.
And it's tough because we just right to terminate or right to work state or whatever.
Yeah. We call it, the label that we like to use is a right to work state, but it has all kinds of different things.
It really means the right to fire you for whatever, whenever.
Right, that's right. What the courts,
you have no right to work.
That's right. What the courts say is it's a employment at will.
Right.
Meaning I can fire you because your eyes are blue. As long as I'm not firing you because you're a Muslim or because you're black or because you're female and I don't like females or whatever, right? Some kind of protected class under federal law.
Right.
I can fire you, because I don't like the way your attitude is or because whatever.
So how did it turn out?
His case didn't go anywhere.
Oh.
Yeah. So what the courts,
wah.
What the court said essentially was, look, we don't really have a wrongful discharge. No, it's not that we don't really have. It's that we don't have a wrongful discharge statute. Like we're employment at will. The one exception to that is like if you work at a big company where there's like a labor union and there's a collective bargaining agreement where you all agree we're not going to fire you unless it's for this, this, and this, and this. Then you formed a contract.
Gotcha.
Right? And if you have formed a contract and you breach that contract and I fire you because of X and X says, well, you can't fire us for this.
Then that's going to give them the right to file their lawsuit and to move forward.
Right. And it's not really a breach of or a wrongful discharge case.
It's more of a contract.
It's a breach of contract case. That's right. That's exactly right. Well, anyways, that was interesting. You had a case that you wanted to talk about, and I really wanted to talk about.
Yes.
That was in the news recently. It was kind of scandalous. Tell me about that.
Well, this is one of those cases that my associate sent me, and it's involving qualified immunity.
This one keeps you up at night, doesn't it?
It's a weird fact scenario. So this young man out in El Paso was in the process of trying to attempt to commit suicide.
In El Paso, Texas.
Yes.
I went through El Paso, Texas once.
Right.
We called it we called it something different.
So this comes out of the Western District of Texas, United States District Court.
So this is a federal case.
So the young man's trying to hang himself. They call and say, hey, this kid's trying to commit suicide.
Okay.
The police officer comes around, sees him standing up on a ladder, balancing up, says, hey, show me your hands. The young man doesn't show his hands. He's got them back behind him.
In the meantime, he's got a noose around his neck?
Around his neck, standing on a ladder.
Good Lord.
And so the officer, when he won't show him his hands, tases him. Even though
Wait, hang on. Slow down.
Yes. You can't make this stuff up.
The kid is standing on a chair.
Yes.
With a noose around his neck.
Yes.
With his hands behind his back.
Yes.
And the police officer says, "Show me your hands," and he doesn't, and so they tase him?
Tase him
That's
for
the
not
thing?
complying with the officer's lawful command.
That doesn't sound right to me.
So the young man falls.
Like you do.
Like you do.
When you're tased.
And he hangs there until they can get him down.
How long did that take?
Long enough for EMT to show up and for him to be dead.
Good God.
So
they didn't take him down until EMS showed up?
I don't know what exactly took place. The problem is his parents came forward and filed a lawsuit and said they had no right to tase him. He was detained. He wasn't doing anything. He wasn't harming anybody. There was no weapon. He had a noose around his neck. He wasn't going anywhere. There was no threat for you there to be a need to use the taser.
Okay.
And
so like excessive force?
Yes, and the court said the officer is protected by qualified immunity. Case is out. Done.
Because, wait, hang on. How does, remind me, we covered this in like episode 2, didn't we?
Yes.
About qualified immunity. How does it work again?
So if the officer is lawfully discharging his duties, following the rules, without any constitutional violations, he's basically can't be sued, or he's immune from being sued under qualified immunity.
Okay.
So the court said, yeah, it probably was excessive force, but we're going to protect him under this because he didn't show his hands.
Because in some conceivable world, this kid could have been a threat.
Could have had a gun, I guess, or something as his hands are.
So in the normal parlance, we call this suicide by cop.
Yeah, but I just think
so what's the, I don't, first of all, practically speaking, I don't understand what the problem is.
My problem is there was no need to tase him.
Okay, but he was fixing to kill himself.
But there was no need to tase him.
Okay.
And by tasing him, it was an excessive use of force by the officer, but the officer is protected by this antiquated rule that the Supreme Court developed 100 years ago.
Okay. So what that means is if the police or any government person is doing something that's conceivably inside of their job description,
right?
Well, then they're okay.
Corners, protected.
Then they're okay. Yeah, we've
even if we kill you,
we ran up into that in Ville, Georgia.
Right.
That
was West Bumble.
Yeah, that was west side. Yes.
Mville, yeah.
It was a few years ago, and the police had run down my client's son who died in this was running from the police in his truck. They ran him down. They pulled him off the road. And then they held him down on the pavement, and then he asphyxiated and he died.
Right.
And
very similar to cases we see in the news nationally.
We do. I think there was another case that we were considering about covering today, where there was some guy walking along the road that was tased by the police officer and died.
Right.
And the question is, well, were the police officers acting in their scope? And what a lot of people don't understand is that as long as there's some reason for the police officer to have been doing what they're doing, they're protected. And
I don't think they should be. I think those days are gone.
I don't know if I agree with you.
We need to do away with it. We need to open it up and let everybody have an insurance policy, and
Well,
I'm on the training.
I'm on the other side of that. I think that the police should be supported in everything that they do, as long as it's not egregious.
But sometimes it is egregious, and we still can't.
All right, so give me an example of what would be egregious. Like the taser thing, I'm not buying that.
So kid comes into a jail.
Okay.
We had this case a while back. The kid comes into the jail, says, "Hey, I'm a heroin addict.
Okay.
I just want to let you know, I use all the time." They say, "Oh, you'll be fine. The doctor will be in here in the next couple of days."
Wait, hang on.
They stick him.
The kid walks into the police station.
No, he got arrested.
Okay. He was arrested for something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Said, "Hey, I'm withdrawing real bad."
Oh, so if I start acting funny.
Yeah.
This is why. Okay,
Officer puts him on top bunk. He falls off the bunk, breaks his ribs, fractures his head, and he dies.
Oh my God. So the question is, did somebody do something wrong?
And the answer to that is they're all protected.
Because they were acting in their duties.
The nurse would be there later that evening, and she wasn't there.
They did at least what they should be doing.
Yep.
Interesting. Speaking of, I was reading another article about, I can't remember where it is, but it's in this stack someplace. The Cobb County police, the jail or Cobb County prison is using ankle monitors now to keep track of inmates who are in jail to make sure that they don't die. So
I haven't heard this.
Yeah, it was just came out in the news a couple weeks ago, where there apparently there have been times where an inmate has died and nobody knew, which is embarrassing if you're the sheriff, oh gosh. So apparently now, not to make light of this, but if you really want a heartbeat monitor and you don't have enough money for one of those fancy Apple Watches, you could go to jail and they'll have a heart monitor on you.
Well, the biggest problem we're having with the prison system is we've done away with all the mental health facilities around the state.
Yeah.
And so you end up with violent offenders, nonviolent offenders, and then mental health. All in the same place. And the sheriff has to figure out how to keep them all alive, keep them all fed, and keep them all from killing each other. And I'm not saying it's an easy task, but it definitely needs some work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the problem I have from being not from Enville but being from a conservative area is I think, well, okay, so what's the problem? These guys are all bad people. Keep them all in place so that they're not messing with my thing.
But they're not. Most of the people sitting in jail have not been convicted of anything yet.
Oh, you're talking about not prison. You're talking about jail.
Yeah.
Okay,
they're innocent.
What's the difference between jail and prison?
So prison, you don't go there until after your conviction,
okay.
right?
That's
jail
where you go,
is where we house you until you go to trial if you can't make bail. The problem is when we're down in Enville or East Bumble,
right?
They no bond people all the time for almost anything. Okay, so
what does no bond mean?
Means either you don't get a bond.
Okay.
Or they set your bond at $2 million or $1 million.
Which is essentially no bond.
Which is essentially you ain't getting out.
Yeah, unless you're...
So if you rob the local convenience store, 7-Eleven, you may sit in jail for no bond for 3 years waiting for your trial. Okay?
Good Lord.
But I take the same guy who gets stopped for shoplifting, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a $5,000 or $1,000 bond, but he doesn't have any friends or family that can make the bond. He sits in there in jail for 3 years alongside
the guy who's actually,
both these guys sit together for, until.
Yeah, or your guy who has 3 dime bags of allegedly marijuana.
Or he's got the marijuana, right? He sits in there too. And so you mix them all together. It's a problem.
It's a problem.
And
because
so,
the hardened criminals are really.
I don't think it's just treat them and street them and put everybody out, but there just has to be a better solution for some of the nonviolent offenders like marijuana use or people with substance abuse issues.
Right. Yeah.
And that's just me.
All right.
Liberal old me.
You're so liberal, Irreverent D. Well, that's the news. Let's talk about. I've got a question from one of our people who have emailed us that says. Can I sue? This is from the Can I sue for this section.
Can I sue for that?
Says my neighbor is playing music way too loud, late at night, all times, and it's thumping. And can I sue my neighbor for this?
You can sue them, and you can call the cops on them if you want to.
And probably the landlord, right?
Yeah, all kind of good stuff.
I think there's at least 5 things that you can do there. But let's take them each in turn.
Well, like we always say, you can just about sue anybody for anything. We got, like you like to say, a crayon and $300.
Right.
But this is definitely a nuisance. I think you're bothering your neighbor with the thumping sound. You could, so you could definitely file a lawsuit for that. Now, what's your damages? That might be.
Yeah.
Does it keep you up at night and stress
I didn't
you
think
out?
about that. You have to show your damages.
Baby to cry.
So couldn't you, Dwayne? You could file a lawsuit in little claims court, in small claims, in like Judge Judy court. Even if you had like $99, you could do that.
How small is a small claims?
All right, so small claims court is for $15,000 or less.
Okay.
So
I can sue them for $14,900.
Yeah. Basically, when I file claims, and every once in a while I have like a personal injury claim that's like, it's a smaller claim. My client wasn't that hurt, but the insurance company's not offering enough money.
So you said Judge Judy, so you're just going in front of...
Yeah, you're going in front of Judge Mathis or Judge Judy or whatever, and you put and they say, what's going on? What happened? And you say, well, my neighbor is...
really loud
music at all hours of the night. And
I want $14,000.
I want all these damages. And the judge, in that case, probably not likely to award you actual damages other than maybe some nuisance value.
Right.
But they might order your neighbor to not play loud music at night. There's some argument. I think this is another one of those things.
What about my First Amendment right to play my music as loud as I want to? Damn it.
Yeah, well, that First Amendment right is a First Amendment right, but you're not allowed to hurt other people's ears.
I can't stand up and yell
fire. What you're saying,
what you're
saying, Dwayne, is like, I have a First Amendment right to express myself, but that doesn't allow me to punch you in the face. Even though, like, I really sometimes myself. I feel like it.
I like to lay these hands.
Like, I want to express myself, like, physically, but that doesn't allow me to hurt you. So, I mean, that's where, that kind of goes back to the two wolves and a hen thing, right? Like, the courts are really there to protect the person who is likely to be victimized. So, yeah. Well,
absolutely, you can sue for that.
You can absolutely sue for that. Yep. Well, that's it for our fourth episode.
Thank you for letting me do this. This has been fantastic.
This has been super
so much
fun. I like it. Episode 4.
Maybe people are learning stuff. I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. If nothing else,
comment below. Leave us some information. Let us know what your questions are.
Make sure you like us on our YouTube channel. If nothing else, to me, I like just talking about these things because they're so interesting. And in fact, as much as we sometimes hear, well, this isn't really relative or relevant to everyday life. In fact, it is. Like, all the things we've talked about in the last 4 episodes have all been like things that actually can affect you. If you get pulled over and DWB or DW something, you can have your car taken by the police, and you need to know what to do. If you get injured in a wreck, you need to know what you're looking for.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that most lawyers out there will talk to you for free.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, if you have a question,
certainly you and I will.
Yeah, we'll be glad to answer it and figure it out. And if not, we know people in the industry and other people that do things. We can get you. Yeah. As a client to the right person.
Frankly, I just like to talk. Yeah. Because it's so, things are so interesting. Anyways, so we hope you've enjoyed these episodes so far, and they've been helpful to you.
Like us, follow, ring the bell.
Yep.
Thanks.
See you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next time when Bob and Irreverent D talk law.
Is that all the stuff you say? Like, follow,
ring the bell.
Like, follow, ring the bell. Yep. Send me money.